What if the truck sitting in your driveway, the one you trusted to carry your family, haul your gear and get you through anything, was secretly designed to betray you? Not because of bad luck or a rare defect, but because of choices made in boardrooms years before you ever signed the paperwork. Imagine merging onto the highway, an 18-wheeler barreling behind you, when suddenly your $60,000 pickup seizes without warning. No power, no control, just dead weight rolling into traffic. That's not a nightmare. It's happening to nearly 1 million GM owners right now. And here's the part nobody's telling you. This isn't just about a recall or a bad batch of engines. Internal documents show GM engineers flagged these exact failures years ago, and executives made a chilling calculation: patch it just enough to last through warranty, and let the rest fall on customers. It's a decision that could turn one of America's most trusted automakers into the center of the biggest pickup truck scandal in history. Earlier this year, GM was forced into one of the biggest recalls in its truck history. Nearly 800,000 Silverados, Sierras, Tahoes, and Suburbans built between 2021 and 2024. Why? Because their engines weren't just unreliable, they were dangerous. These weren't slow failures that gave you warning lights or strange noises. Owners reported their trucks seizing without notice even at highway speeds. One second you're cruising at 70 miles per hour. The next, the engine locks up and the steering goes stiff while traffic bears down behind you. And what was GM's solution? Not engine replacements, not full-scale repairs. Their fix was a software update, a thicker oil and a new cap Band-Aid measures that cost them less than $50 per truck. But here's where it gets disturbing. Regulators only forced GM's hand after years of mounting complaints. Which raises the real question: how long did GM know about these defects before admitting to anything? Because this wasn't just about a bad batch of trucks. It was about a decision made inside GM long before the recall ever hit the headlines. The shocking truth is that GM wasn't blindsided by these failures. Internal documents and whistleblower testimony reveal that engineers flagged the exact machining defects years before the recall. They identified the microscopic flaws in crankshafts and connecting rods that would eventually destroy engines. They calculated how many trucks would fail, when they would fail, and what it would cost to fix. But instead of addressing the problem, executives made a cold, calculated choice: don't fix it, just stretch it. Their plan was simple: make the engines last long enough to crawl past the 60,000-mile warranty period. After that, the breakdowns would become the owner's problem, not GM's. It was a deliberate gamble with customer safety, designed to protect profit margins and executive bonuses. And the most infuriating part: this wasn't the first time GM used this playbook. Because just a few years earlier, they were caught in another scandal with eerily similar tactics. If this story sounds familiar, that's because it is. Back in 2022, GM faced a major lawsuit over defective piston rings that caused massive oil consumption issues. Court documents showed executives knew about the flaws, but instead of fixing them, they approved cheaper Band-Aid solutions that conveniently pushed failures just beyond the warranty period. The jury saw right through it, and GM was forced to pay hundreds of millions in damages. And yet, just 3 years later, here we are again. The same cost-cutting playbook, the same calculated risk, but this time with far higher stakes. Analysts estimate that if every affected truck required a proper engine replacement, GM could be on the hook for over $7 billion. Instead, their so-called fix cost them less than $50 per vehicle. A few dollars in oil and a quick software update to buy time, while families are left driving potential ticking time bombs. But this isn't just about money. For the people behind the wheel, these failures aren't financial, they're life-threatening. And that's where the scandal goes from infuriating to terrifying. For drivers, this isn't some abstract financial gamble. It's a nightmare that can strike without warning. Imagine cruising with your kids in the back seat when your engine suddenly locks up in the middle of traffic. That's exactly what happened to Jennifer Martinez from San Antonio. Her 2022 Tahoe died on the interstate, forcing her to fight for control while semis roared past. "It was the most terrifying moment of my life," she said. Stories like hers aren't rare. They're piling up across the country. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has already linked GM's engine failures to dozens of accidents and multiple injuries. Independent mechanics describe tearing down these motors and finding catastrophic damage: bearings fused, crankshafts shredded, metal shards scattered through the oil system. There's no repair, only total replacement. And yet, GM continues to insist that thicker oil and a new cap are enough to fix the issue. But the most chilling part is this: the recall only covers a fraction of the trucks that could be affected, which means the danger might reach far beyond what GM is willing to admit. What GM has admitted to so far may only be the tip of the iceberg. Independent analysts studying failure data have uncovered a disturbing pattern. These catastrophic breakdowns aren't limited to the 800,000 trucks in the official recall. Reports of identical failures are coming from vehicles built at other plants, in different years, and even in models that GM has publicly insisted are safe. Consumer advocates say the numbers don't lie. Hundreds of engines outside the recall have already seized in exactly the same way, raising the possibility that millions more vehicles could be quietly carrying the same deadly flaw. If that's true, this wouldn't just be one of GM's largest recalls, it could become the biggest automotive scandal in American history. And yet, instead of expanding the recall, GM appears to be limiting its scope, keeping the focus narrow while the problem spreads in the shadows. But this isn't just about how many vehicles are at risk, it's about the way GM is actually designing them from the ground up. The most unsettling revelation isn't just that GM trucks are failing, it's that many of them were built to fail. Insiders from GM's own engineering teams have confirmed a disturbing philosophy called warranty-centric engineering. In simple terms, parts are designed to survive just long enough to make it through the warranty period. After that, longevity is no longer the company's concern, it becomes the customer's problem. The contrast is striking. Take the Corvette, which uses the same basic V8 architecture as many of these trucks. Corvette engines are built with tighter tolerances, higher-grade materials, and stricter quality control. The result? They're known to last well past 150,000 miles under extreme driving conditions. But when it comes to GM's workhorse trucks, the vehicles Americans rely on daily, corners were cut, machining precision was reduced, cheaper materials were used, and the end result was an engine engineered to limp past 60,000 miles before the breakdowns began. For generations, GM trucks were a symbol of strength, built to outlast everything else on the road. Now they've been reduced to ticking time bombs wrapped in chrome and leather, designed not for durability, but for accounting spreadsheets. And this betrayal of trust is already setting off a chain reaction, one that GM can no longer contain. The cracks are already spreading far beyond the trucks themselves. Across the country, class action lawsuits are piling up, accusing GM of negligence and demanding full engine replacements, or even vehicle buybacks. Attorneys argue that GM's so-called fix isn't a fix at all, it's a stalling tactic designed to minimize costs while families shoulder the risk. If courts agree, GM could be staring down billions in new liabilities, on top of the damage already done to their reputation. Dealers are caught in the crossfire, facing furious customers with trucks they can't trust and a manufacturer that refuses to authorize real repairs. Service departments are overwhelmed with recall work that doesn't solve the problem, while sales floors are emptying as once loyal customers walk away. Meanwhile, rivals like Ford, Ram, and Toyota smell blood in the water, launching aggressive trade-in campaigns targeted directly at GM truck owners. Inside GM, insiders whisper of tension boiling over, engineers pushing for real fixes, executives obsessed with containing costs, and mid-level managers walking away rather than sign off on what they see as corporate deception. And yet, the biggest blow to GM isn't coming from lawsuits, dealerships, or competitors. It's coming from the one thing they can never buy back once it's lost: trust. For generations, owning a GM truck meant reliability. These were vehicles that outlasted everything, machines passed down from fathers to sons, built to run 500,000 miles with little more than basic maintenance. But today's reality is brutally different. Trucks that cost $50,000, $60,000, even $70,000 are seizing before their loans are paid off, leaving families stranded and businesses crippled. The betrayal cuts deeper than mechanical failure. GM has shifted from building vehicles that last to building vehicles that just survive the warranty clock. It's not about engineering excellence anymore. It's about financial strategy. When insiders admit that the company measures success by whether engines limp to 60,000 miles instead of 200,000, it tells you everything about how far they've fallen. And the people who feel this betrayal most are the loyalists. Families who've bought GM trucks for generations now watch their investments crumble, realizing the brand they trusted isn't the same one that earned its reputation decades ago. But this cultural shift inside GM didn't happen by accident. It was deliberate. And former engineers say it's now baked into everything the company builds. Inside GM, the culture itself has changed. A decade ago, engineers were proud of designing engines that could survive 200,000 miles and beyond. Durability wasn't a luxury, it was the standard. But according to multiple former employees, that philosophy has been replaced by something far more cynical: warranty-centric engineering. The guiding question isn't will this last a lifetime, it's will this last 60,000 miles. If the math says yes, the problem is considered solved, even if engineers know those same parts will start failing at 70,000. One former powertrain designer put it bluntly: 10 years ago, we were overbuilding engines, now we're told overbuilding is wasteful. Every dollar saved on machining tolerances, materials or testing is considered a win, even if it means the customer pays the price later. It's not a bug in GM's system, it's the system itself. This cultural shift has created a dangerous divide inside the company. Engineers raise alarms, warning of future failures, but executives focus on quarterly reports, stock prices and bonuses. The result? Trucks engineered not for generations, but for expiration dates. And the consequences of that mindset reach far beyond GM's bottom line. They strike at the very heart of what trucks mean to America. This scandal isn't just about defective engines. It's about what happens when one of America's most iconic companies puts profits ahead of people. For decades, the pickup truck was more than transportation. It was the backbone of industries, farms, construction sites, and families. It symbolized strength, trust, and endurance. When a truck rolled off the lot, you believed it would carry you for decades. But now that promise is gone. GM's decision to cut corners doesn't just hurt individual owners, it ripples through entire communities. Contractors who can't rely on their trucks lose business. Farmers who depend on their pickups face financial strain. Families who bought into GM's legacy of reliability are left paying off vehicles that may not last long enough to finish the loan. And all of it stems from a culture that decided warranties were the finish line, not the starting point. This isn't only about GM, it's a warning sign for the entire auto industry. If this philosophy spreads, the American dream of owning a truck that lasts a lifetime could disappear, replaced by vehicles built to fail just after the ink dries on the warranty papers. And that leaves us with one final question: what happens to trust when the machine you counted on most was never built to last? GM's recall isn't just a story about bad engines, it's a story about betrayal. Nearly 1 million trucks recalled, millions more possibly at risk, and a company that chose to protect its balance sheet instead of its customers. For decades, GM built its reputation on strength and longevity. Now the evidence shows those values have been replaced by cold financial calculations. Trucks once built to last 200,000 miles are now engineered to collapse just after the warranty runs out. For the families stranded on highways, the workers losing business, and the loyalists watching generations of trust vanish, this scandal is more than mechanical failure. It's a cultural failure. It's proof that when profit comes before people, the consequences aren't just expensive, they're dangerous. So here's the bottom line. The truck in your driveway may look tough, but if GM built it to a spreadsheet instead of a standard, you're not driving reliability, you're driving risk. If this story opened your eyes, hit the like button, share it with every truck owner you know, and drop your own experience in the comments. And if you want to stay ahead of the next automotive scandal before it hits your wallet, subscribe right now, because we're digging deeper into the stories the automakers don't want you to hear.